Hey guys, and welcome on that video. Today we're going to be doing some more scene reviews, but because it's moving on quite slowly, I'm going to try and start doing 2 an episode. As long as they don't get too long, we should be alright. So today we're doing Crystal Palace, who managed to get themselves out of the relegation battle really by the end and survived with a few games left really. I think they did finish like bottom 5, but they still did really well. And considering where they were when Roy Hodgson took over, they've done really well in the last few weeks. And his transfers have also been pretty good. But first of all, we're going to analyse each player's season. First one we're going to analyse is the person who carried them for parts of this season. I haven't won a game without him in a few years, and that is Wilfred Zaha, who got 9 goals and 3 assists this season. So that is really good. And whether he plays up front and out or out wide, he always seems dangerous, but he always at the same time seems really controversial. But I really like him. I would love it if he came to Tottenham. The next person we're going to be looking at is Mamadou Sakho, who got 1 goal and 2 assists this year, but he has been out injured for a little while, so you can kind of accept him not scoring as many, and he's a centre half, so you wouldn't expect him to score that many, but he's been good on his debut season. Not good when he was on loan, but he's been consistent for him. The next person we're going to be looking at is Christian Benteke, someone who definitely has been consistent, but the wrong kind of being consistent, because he's been consistently bad for him this year. Only scored 3 goals and 5 assists. He just has not worked himself back to the form which he was at Villa. Palace just opt to play without him now, which I think is a real shame for him, but he really needs to improve big time next year. Next person we're going to be looking at is James Tompkins, who scored 3 goals this year, going up from the back. He had a spell of scoring in a few games in a row, but he actually had a really good year this year. He's been Mr. Consistent for him really. He's always back there for him. The next person we're going to be looking at is Yohan Cabaye, who didn't actually score this year. But he's quite surprised considering he quite often scores or goes up front from corners and all that. And he quite often bombs forward from midfield, so it's a bit of a surprise he didn't score this year. But he's, had a bit of an average year. He's had a few injuries himself. But, he's getting there. The next person we're going to be looking at is Andrew Townsend, who, like Zaha, has turned into striker this year. And he got 2 goals and 7 assists, which is more the kind of form he was showing at Tottenham. If he could just score a few more goals, he'd be a really talented player. He'd definitely be at Zaha's level if he could just score a few more goals. The next person we're going to be looking at is their surprise top scorer, and that's Luka Milivojevic, or whatever his name is, who has 10 goals and 1 assist this year, but I think most of those goals came from the penalty spot anyway, because he did score a few penalties this year. But he's had a really good year, actually. He's been Mr. Consistent for him most of the time. That person we're going to be looking at James McArthur, who's got 7 goals and 1 assist this year from midfield, and that is pretty good. In fact, that is really good for a side in a relegation battle. It's obvious that they do score goals, Palace, because they've got a lot of people scoring their goals, but they're not consistent defensively, and they can't keep them out. The next person we're going to be looking at is Scott Dan, who got 1 goal this year, but he has also had his injury problems at times. He hasn't even played half the games from this year, which is a bit of a shame. Considering I really like Scott Dan, I think he's a really talented defender. But he just hasn't scored enough this year. Probably because he stayed back a bit more now. Now that he's getting a bit older, he stays back a bit more. The next person we're going to be looking at is one of Palace's talents of the season, and one of their main transfer targets for this year, and that is Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who got 2 goals and 3 assists this year. But that's not the point. The point is his quality has been there all year this year. He's had his injury problems, but he's still been right up there. Him and Wilf Zaha have been so crucial to Palace this year. The person we're going to be looking at is Patrick Van Aanholt, who scored 5 goals and 1 assist this year from fullback. He does have a tendency to go forward and score. I think he scored in the last few games, like 3 in a row or something like that, close to that. Next person we're going to be looking at Joel Ward, who hasn't scored this year, but he has also had his injury problems, like most of them have. Palace don't get a lot of luck with injuries, certainly have this year, but he's been alright for him when he's been fit. Fossey Mentor's also had his injury issues, and I cannot see him buying him really. Not buying him, but maybe loaning him again. Kelly had played a few games this year, but he's also had his injury problems and not really had a great season. Riedewald, he was brought in last year. He played a few games for him, but he's maybe been used off the bench and hasn't scored this year. Jason Puncheon, who didn't get any goals or assists this year, but he has been out for a lot of it. Cavallera, I don't think he actually played. Wayne Hennessy got into the team towards the middle of it and has never really let his place go. He's been really consistent for him. Jeffrey Slupp has kind of been their super sub to kind of play anywhere down that left or go up front. He's been that kind of player for them this year, just play wherever they need him to. Next person who's also had big injury problems, who hasn't even played 1,000 minutes for him this year, and that's Bakary Sakho, who was finally hitting the form he was showing at Wolves and was finally impressing people, and then he went and got himself injured, so missed the rest of the season. Speroni's too old in my opinion now. He is. Wickham hasn't played, but hopefully he'll get back fit for next year. Sorloth was brought in January, played a few games, looked alright, but never really shone. Suarez hasn't played, Rakip hasn't played, Young hasn't really played a lot. This is the one I'm looking for. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who was just brought in because of injury to cover people, and he's actually had, quite frankly, a really good end to the season. He had a really good time in the big game when everyone else was injured. Well, anyway guys, now we're going to be moving on to their transfer targets. I've already mentioned Loftus-Cheek is one of their main targets this year. Let's look at who else they're targeting. Vicente Gaeta is thought to have already confirmed. He's thought to have joined in January on a free transfer for the end of the season, but apparently now he hasn't. But it does look like Palace are going to go for him. Fabianski, he was only really there because they've been relegated, and Gaeta, and it was mainly in case that one fell through. Ryan Fredericks is now one which looks a bit more unlikely now that Fulham got promoted yesterday. James Tavernier, he wanted to replace Fossey Mentor really, who will go back to United obviously at the end of the year. But he is quite a serious one. He's actually done alright in Scotland, considering Rangers finished quite a way off Celtic. Dendoncker is someone who I really like on FIFA. He's a really good player, and in real life everyone thinks he's a really good player. I think West Ham are interested in him as well. I think he is a really talented player actually. Maita, Amadou and Jan and Villa were mainly in this just in case Johan Cabaye didn't sign a new contract, I think. But because it now looks like Johan Cabaye is going to sign a new contract, these lot might not sign. But Amadou was the one which was meant to sign in January, and wanted signed in January, but they couldn't get it over the line, so he flew to London, but they couldn't get it over the line. The next one is Jack Wilshere, who I think they're mainly going to move for if Arsenal don't offer him a new contract. But obviously if they don't get Jack Wilshere, Lewis Ferguson is one who they'd look at anyway, I think. If they did get Jack Wilshere, but you know, they might look at them both, I don't know. Andre Schürrle is one who they want just in case they can't get Loftus-Cheek over the line. Andre Schürrle was a really good player at times in Chelsea days, but has struggled to make an impact at Dortmund, really. Next person they're looking at is really a replacement for Benteke, so they've mainly been with Mikel Antonio from West Ham, Adair from Inter Milan, and Jack Marriott from Peterborough. All three of these would really be able to put Townsend and potentially Loftus-Cheek or Schürrle out wide and move one of these three up front with Zaha, which I think would be a really good move for them. I think the top one should be Mikel Antonio, because he can also play out wide if needed. But anyway guys, that's going to be the end of Crystal Palace. The next team we're going to be looking at is Everton. So I've just got to find it. Well anyway, I'm mainly doing 2 episodes, so then this series doesn't drag on. I feel like it's dragging on a bit, and you lot are getting a bit bored of it already. So I'm trying to stop that kind of thing from happening. Right, so first person we're going to be looking at Everton is potentially their best player in some people's mind, and that is Idrissa Gueye, who's got 2 goals and 1 assist this year. But he's one who's a really talented player, and I'm surprised none of the more higher clubs in the Prem, like someone like, this is going to be controversial, but Liverpool or someone, haven't looked at him yet, or Arsenal, because he's a talented player who can defend, but has also got a long shot in him, so he's had a good year this year. He's played a lot of minutes for him this year. Next person we're going to be looking at was their big money signing for this year. And that is Gylfi Sigurdsson, who got 5 goals and 3 assists. He's had an alright first year at Everton. Some of their signings have been real calamities and barely played, but he's one who has played but not really impressed that much. But he's still been consistent and played. Seamus Coleman I don't think has played enough games this year to judge him because of his injury, so I feel mean saying how well he's done. Next person we're going to be looking at Czech Tosin, who's got 5 goals since joining in January. He just popped up sometime with vital goals for him when they've been really struggling. Next person we're going to be looking at is David Klassen, who is one of the transfers who hasn't really performed yet this year. He's had a few injuries, he never really got properly into the team, and he didn't score this year. Which, for somebody who's more of an advanced midfielder, that is pretty bad. Next player we're going to be looking at is Wayne Rooney, who's been heavily linked with a move to the USA, but he got 12 goals and 2 assists this year. I don't remember him getting 12 goals. I don't remember him barely scoring. He's 31 and he cannot even get into an Everton starting lineup. No offence to Everton, but there's something wrong there. Next person we're going to be looking at is Boban Schneiderlin, who also didn't score this year, but he's another one who just sits in front of that back 4 and will just protect and protect and protect the whole time. Next person we're going to be looking at one of their senior heads, Leighton Baines, who got 2 goals and 3 assists this year. He used to score a lot more, but now that he got older, he didn't go forward as much. He used to be in the England squad, but that hasn't happened for him. The next person we're going to be looking at is Michael Keane, who has not had the best year in in his first year at Everton. He'll probably be the first to admit that he hasn't had a good first year, but hopefully next year he'll be able to turn it around with a solid partner, which we'll talk about in a minute, I think. So that person we're going to be looking at is one of Everton's stars this year, really, and that is Jordan Pickford, who everyone knew about before this year, but he's really shone this year and kept Everton in some games. He's had a really good year, and I think he should definitely be in the England squad ahead of Joe Hart. Next person we're going to be looking at Jagielka, who were kind of out of the team when Michael Keane came in, but then him, Ashley Williams and Michael Keane have kind of been in out together this year. They can't really settle on a solid partnership. The next person we're going to be looking at is Theo Walcott, who got 3 goals and 3 assists this year for Everton. And he's really shown a bit more form since joining Everton. Nothing like the player who Arsenal used to have. He actually had a good second half of the year. The next person we can be looking at is James McCarthy, who, unfortunately for him, I think broke his leg. I think he was the one who broke his leg this year. He was alright, he's had an alright year. He's one of those who just kind of gets on with his job, doesn't get a lot of credit, but he just gets on with it and does his job. Mangala hasn't really played enough and has been so bad, there's no point even mentioning him, he's been so bad. Ashley Williams has got 2 goals this year, but they've mainly been from corners. Well, they've all been from corners. And he's not that kind of goal threat that he used to be. Him and Jagielka are both quite old now, and I really think they need to replace them. Funes Mori only just got back fit. I think he only played like once or twice at the end of the season. Yannick Bolasie, he also had his injury problems this year. He got 1 goal and no assist this year, but he has only played 854 minutes, so you've got to take a bit of credit for him. And you've got to say, well, he has had a lot of injury problems. The next person we're going to be looking at is a very controversial figure for Everton right now. And that is Oumar Niasse, who got 9 goals and 2 assists this year, but has had a massive falling out with some of the players. And they've now said either he goes or we go, and I definitely let him go ahead of them. The next person we're going to be looking at is Tom Davis, who's had an alright year this year. He broke onto the scene last year, and he got 2 goals and 1 assist this year, but he struggled to kind of break into the team permanently. That person could be looking at Mason Holgate, who's also kind of been debating in the centre-half role. Everton cannot currently decide on a good centre-half partnership. They kind of keep swapping and changing, and I don't think that's helpful to anyone in that back four. Next person we're going to be looking at someone who's really made a name for himself this year, and that is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He's actually had a pretty good year this year. He's got 7 goals and 6 assists. And for a young striker, and he's English, that's really good for a young striker who's English. And I can see him playing for England in a few years. Next we'll be looking at their transfer targets. And I think they definitely need to bring in either Alfie Mawson or Jamal Lascelles. I think honestly it'll kind of depend on who their new manager is. But currently it's looking like it's going to be Marco Silva, so he might have his own ideas. Next we're going to be looking at their left back targets. Got Danny Rose, Joe Bryan, Aaron Martin, Frank Fabra and Luke Shaw. I think Danny Rose is unrealistic. I think Joe Bryan isn't quite good enough just yet. So I'd prioritise Luke Shaw and Aaron Martin really. My top one would probably be Luke Shaw, just because United will probably be happy to let him go. Another position Everton have been looking into to make new signings in is centre midfield. They've been linked with William Carvalho, Ziyech from Ajax, Toure, who's now a free agent, and Jack Wilshere. I think their top targets should be Wilshere and Carvalho for that position, because I think they could be really good signings for him. a signing who they've been looking at for up front really, but he's like down as centre forward on this game. If Will Zaha, who I think is unrealistic and would choose European football over Everton any day, and would probably choose to stay at Palace over Everton. The next one we're going to be looking at is recently relegation, Shaqiri, who's had a bit of a weird season really. He hasn't really impressed at times, but then sometimes he has produced moments of magic. Now the main two strikers they're looking at are Jamie Vardy and Luis Muriel, out from Seville and Leicester obviously. I think their top target in this position should definitely be Vardy if they can get him, but Muriel won't be that bad if they can't get Vardy. Two left wingers they're looking at is Richarlison, which would mainly be if Marcus Silva took over, and Justin Kluivert from Ajax. I think they should definitely target Kluivert, even if Marcus Silva doesn't take over. That's going to be the end of this video, guys. Thank you for watching. I will see you guys tomorrow when we do Huddersfield and Leicester, because I probably want to see your reaction when I film that. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you lot tomorrow.